Now Steve Harley talks about his relationship with the church.
Are you up? I am.
Heaven is calling to me. I gotta run now, the feeling is right. Out on his soul just dictating me, holding my future in its light.
When your career starts in your early 20s, you're so wrapped up in yourself and the belief that you can actually change the world. You actually believe you can change the world, and you actually believe that you're an important person. You believe. It must happen to almost all of us. I mean, I may have taken it to extremes, I don't know, but you do believe you're important. Of course you're not. And it's only when you're older you learn how insignificant you really are. And then you learn some humility. Then you go back to church.
I'm alive, alright. I'm just a victim of love. I'm alive, alright. Just a victim of love.
Steve Harley shot to fame in the 70s with his band Cockney Rebel, and he's continued to write and produce music while still touring to sell out audiences. His inspiration, both musically and spiritually, goes back to a very unusual and influential childhood.
The family weren't big churchgoers at all, but I think, like in most working class homes, there's a serious degree of spirituality, even if it's with a very small s, and it's confined to the kitchen table. Spirituality coming from mum. I was the second of 5 children, and while number 3 or 4 was being delivered in a South London hospital, I was on the south coast at my gran's in Hove, where I contracted polio. There was an epidemic of it then. There were floods all around the British coast, and it brought that nasty disease. And weeks later, I was back in the family bosom in London, and they realised that I was very unwell, that this wasn't actually flu. Stephen was a little sick, you know. And that changed everything, obviously, you know. To be 2.5, 3 years old, you know, close to death, and brought back from that brink. And then up until I was 16, if you add up day by day and month by month, it was 3.5 years spent in hospital, away from home and away from school.
Anxious mother pleads, come home, Dino. I can't believe that's my boy they're talking about.
When I was young, I walked on crutches until I was about 11 or 12. And they did, the local authorities did want, when I was 5, to send me to some sort of special school. I can't imagine where it was in those days or anything, but I know my parents stood up and my dad just said, not a chance. He'll get tripped up in the playground just like everybody else. But they never ever made me feel different or special. Yeah, I was never given a lot of sympathy, and I'm sure it stood me in good stead. If had they done, well, of course, I'm with the Jesuits. Give me the child until he is 7, I'll show you the man. I think it's totally true. And you're made by then. The basic you is well set up by then. I don't think the core person changes after that. My dad certainly made me as good as the next man, and it gave me this self-belief, which in the 70s, when I got into the charts first of all and was being interviewed, it made me come across as a little too self-assured. I think I got it all wrong, to be honest. I think I misread the lessons that I was being taught.
I just want to be someone, anyone, but I want to be a star for a week or 2.
I was 12 years old in that hospital bed, and I told my parents to tell the school that I was going to be a reporter. There was absolutely never any doubt, absolutely no doubt at all. And they all knew Stephen was going to be a journalist. There was never any question.
Just want to be someone, world not be complete if I could be a star.
It was this self-belief that when I finally did land a job, got me the job, this sense of persistence, because I went to 24 interviews. It was what I wanted. And I got a lot of experience, but I was becoming a bit of a weekend hippie, to be honest. Yeah, this is 72, 73, and I was a bit of a weekend hippie. And I'd come home back to the office. I'd come back to the office from Magistrates Court, where I'd been all day, 7, 8, 9 hours, whatever it was. On those wooden benches wearing out the backside of your trousers. It really wasn't a very clever day, and I sent in all the copy, and I was ready to leave for the day, and the editor called me in and said, "Steve, I need a couple of paragraphs." The paper was going to bed. And I said, "I haven't got anything. You've got everything that's writable. It's all there." He said, "No, what about this?" And he pointed to a shoplifting offence. I said, "Look, she's 53, menopausal. She nicked a can of beans. Tuppeny halfpenny fine. Look, you can't write this." He said, "Well, I want it. I'm short of space. I've got 2 paragraphs to fill," he said. "I've got a hole here, a gap. Fill it for me." And I said, "I can't do it. I won't do it. This woman is a good woman. She didn't mean any harm. She's innocent until this moment, as far as we all know. She's got children and neighbours. Her children go to school, who have parents. You could ruin her life. They might have to move. This is a terrible slur on her and her family, and it was in a moment of madness. She's menopausal, man. You don't want to write about this." And he insisted. I said, "No, I can't do it." I just walked out. It was printed. He did write it up. 6 weeks later, he had to sack me. I mean, I wanted to leave. I had to go. I was hurting people, and I didn't like it. I was getting too sensitive. I was a poet deep down, you know.
Everywhere he reads, give up, Dino. We want to know, what's this death wish you're talking about?
It seemed at the time to my family and friends that I'd hit a self-destruct button, giving up this really good career, a future, a good job and everything, to go on the dole and to busk. I spent the next year pretty well busking in Hyde Park and Leicester Square, Marble Arch in the subways. But I say busking, I was writing songs. I was writing the first 2 albums were written before I got a recording contract.
Wanna give, wanna die, wanna live, wanna find my own identity like any other teenage kid.
And I'd been looking at the charts and stuff like that. And as I put this first Cockney Rebel together, drawing them from here and there, a couple of ads in the Melody Maker, and I said to my first managers who went to EMI with what I'd got, "I know how to do it. I know how to do it." I believed I could write a hit record, and I was proved right. I wrote Judy Teen.
Judy Teen, the queen of the scene, she's like Dolamour. Verbal slang, American twang, yeah, dare not ignore.
That's nowhere near my biggest hit, but that got us off. That was the first hit. It wasn't my first hit in Europe. I'd had much more serious music, was already very successful in Europe. Sebastian had been #1 for weeks in several European countries before Judy Teen took off here.
Somebody call me Sebastian. Somebody call me Sebastian.
I don't write lyrics in 5 minutes anymore. It takes weeks of going back over and over. Well, of course, your moods change and your attitudes change. There are messages within messages. Most of what I do, I find in retrospect. I look back and find the allegories myself, but I don't know they're happening at the time. You can hear the deepest love songs, and the writer can never really be sure if it's a hymn to his God, her God, or to his or her wife, or someone else important in your life, a close friend, a lover. You can't always know yourself. So the clever writer, I think, in lyrics, you tend to tie the lot in all in one bash and read what they want into it. It is a surrealistic love song, and I'll leave it at that. It is a lot of things to a lot of people, and I think that's fun. And it was. I'm not precious about it, and I wouldn't for a second want to be pretentious. But it was. Dylan did say to an interviewer 30 years ago, "It's what it wants to be to you. What do you make of it yourself? Then that's what it means." It's words to that effect, and I think that does sum it all up.
Somebody call me Sebastian. Somebody call me Sebastian.
After a couple of big hit albums and a few hit singles, one or two people in the band they came to me saying they wanted to write songs for the band, and I said, well, you can't, because Cockney Rebel is me, it's my concept, you don't understand it, how can I sing your words? They've got to be mine. Sure. Now, I could have been more sensitive, I could have tried harder to understand what they were trying to do and give them the time of day, but I was young and full of myself, so we split up.
You've broken every code and pulled the rebel.
I think they woke up and realised that I was getting checks that they didn't get for writing the songs.
You spoke the game, no matter what you say. But only metal, what a bore. Blue eyes, how can you tell so many lies? Oh, come up and see me. Make me smile. I'll do what you want, running wild.
It's funny to me, always been amusing to me how it's so popular as this mid-tempo backbeat, and everyone sings along to it, but it's the most cynical song I ever wrote.
For a little while, there's nothing left, my faith.
It's this poppy tune, but really like tear it apart, and it's not very pleasant.
Resist, resist. It's from yourself you have to hide. Come up and see me, make me smile. Oh, I do what you want, running wild.
But for Steve, was moving on a safe bet or a wild gamble?
There's an element of self-destruct about my career. I didn't do myself favours. A lot of the time with the games I played and the way I made certain types of records, and EMI found me difficult to deal with because it wasn't following up the same. You know, after the best years of our lives, which was enormous with Make Me Smile and Mr. Raffles as big hit singles, I then came out with Timeless Flight, which was laid back and introspective, and it wasn't what they expected, and it went against me in career terms, but I had to do what I had to do. So there's an element of self-destruct about me, but that's only work. The important matters, like racing and family, I know where to stop. I remember that at the age of 3, my parents were told their son had died. And it was only immense faith from my parents, perhaps a certain doctor who went for it and got me back. Well, I don't remember it, but the subconscious might have logged this, and I think that when you've been there and come back, you've been that close to going and got back again. I think that life's precious. I think that even if it is in my subconscious, I know what it's like somehow to be on the brink.
The last time I saw you, my eyes were red from constant crying. Blue moon was at my door. You read my hand and told me all romantics go to heaven, or to war.
5 or 6 years ago, I knew that, I wouldn't actually last and live forever. And it's just a terrible thought. I've really not got to grips with it at all, my own mortality. I have not got to grips with it at all. Nowhere near. I'm miles from it. It might happen overnight. At the moment, I feel light years away from solving it, the problem. But maybe one day it will click, bang. So maybe I'm closer than I think, Hey, what are we all here for? But now I'm wildly ambitious again. I went through the 80s putting it all on ice, having babies and spending instead of earning. I work harder now than I've ever done. For a lazy boy, that's saying something. I do work pretty hard, actually. And I travel and tour more than I've ever done. I love my life more than I've ever loved it. But, yeah, don't let anyone think Look, I can't make an album a year anymore. Record companies don't want that from me anymore. When I release one, it's not going to go zipping into the top 10 in Britain and all over the world like it used to. I've had to accept that. I'm pissed off about it. But I've had to accept it. It's not easy.
The last time I saw you alone, you shielded me from strangers and saved me from the law. And in my dreams I still have you. You're still my sweet compadre. Hiya, El Gran Senor.
You can't stop a writer. It doesn't matter about record companies, the music business and critics, whatever they think. You can't stop someone writing. I came out writing, I said, I'm going to write all my life. It's what I do. So I continue to make albums, obviously. Oh, no, the ambition is fierce.
She shook her head and I saw jewels. I saw golden trinkets hanging there and quivering. Then she told me, hey, I see the sea. Watch how the creases form, then disappear. We saw a new day forming.
The great thing about being the writer and having written a load of songs that are not just bubblegum is that I know now in my mid-40s, with the acoustic tour, it's taught me that it's a job for life. What I've done to deserve it, I can't say. I really don't know what I did. Why, God is so kind to me, why me? But it's a job for life. You realize that, I can sit on a chair with a guitar and a piano. When I'm in my 70s, I'll be doing it. It's funny, when we started this thing in the early 70s and in the 60s, those guys, no one thought it could last. It's not as here today, gone tomorrow, as fickle as we once thought it was, not at all.
Don't you know, life gets tedious enough without this extra grudge to bear. You're so slow, shift your ideas, make your mind up in a jiffy, let's be fair. Will I be taking off tonight? Turn off your eyes and shut the light.
25 years later, here I am. And in another 25, it's great to know you can sit down, they'll be there, I'll be here, and you sing those songs, and a lot more too.
And she whispered, look, the honey-coloured ball is lilting its way into another morning. Then she flicked the back of her neck defiantly. And for such gestures one could fall hopelessly in love for a lifetime.
I have to have a faith. I think about it a lot. I don't know, it's a limit to how much world tragedy you can afford to take on, but aid workers, When they come back from Bosnia or in Sri Lanka or any one of a dozen parts of the planet, and they come back with terrible memories, with pictures in their minds that they can probably never put into words. They've seen horrors that the likes of you and me, God willing, will never see. They don't come back saying, what I've seen has convinced me there's no God. If there were a God, how could he let this happen? It's a good question. But they don't come back saying, therefore there is no God, I've lost my faith. They come back saying, only God can help these people. He put it into me physically to go there and do what I can, but God help them. And what do? They say, God give me strength. Show me the way to help these people. They don't come back having given up on faith. There's not a chance of that. They continue to believe.
The leaping of my ransomed heart said trees can weep and stone can bleed. We knew that we weren't sure.
I read the Bible, but I don't study it at all. We won't read the modern stuff. I like it here because they're old traditionalists, and that suits me fine. Some of it's, you read it and it tastes good enough to eat in its original translation, the King James, And I'd look sometimes when I'm reading the epistle and I look at the 8 or 9 or 11 of my neighbours that are in church that morning, and I do sometimes wonder, what are we all here for? And we are actually, you'd have to say, all there for entirely different reasons. Everyone gets their own from it, their own needs satisfied. And they go for different reasons, I suppose. I've got to say, as much as anything, I do actually go to sing those hymns. To be honest, I do. I love it. I love, there are some hymns which are great tunes and fabulous to sing, fabulous. It's like it's only 8:45 on a Sunday morning and it's tough. I have no warm-ups and I'm not ready to sing really. But it's very, very, very uplifting. I feel great. I come back and put a kettle on and a bacon sandwich or something with the family, and it does make you feel really good. What I get from church is the peace and quiet, the solitude almost, no matter how many there are in a congregation. And in the tiny village where I live, there are not many in the congregation. You're pretty exposed in there. But it gives me solace. And it's not happy clappy. I couldn't bear that. That's not what I need, because, as I say, I get that from audiences, that release, that expression. I express all that professionally. And it gives me humility. I go and I'm in this beautiful, quiet place, and I feel pretty insignificant in the great scheme of things. But in the eyes of the God that I worship, I know exactly in that room, in his room, in that chapel, I know exactly for 45 minutes during this weekly communion, as if I'm in the village, I go to church because I read the epistle most weeks. And for that 45 minutes, I actually am highly significant to the God I worship. I am alone in there, and I'm being looked after by him, and there is a God.
How come you ignore my faith in everything? I know what faith is and what it's worth.
I have to have a faith. I just have to have it. I think everyone should. G.K. Chesterton. When people stop believing in religion, they don't believe in nothing, they believe in anything. And I think that's right on the button, right bang on the button. You're around them all the time. Oh God, there's no such a thing. Why to go to church? I go to church. I don't need that. But they believe in so many other nonsenses, so much else to cling to. Everyone has something. That's all I can teach my children. You've got to have faith. You do what you like with it later on. You make your own mind up, but you've got to have faith in something.
Who has? How can we tell so many lies? smile. Oh, I do what you want, running wild.